Bueno, pues vamos a entendiendo.
Well, now that we correctly understand the conceptual difference between a law and a command, we will see that each gives rise to an entirely distinct process of social cooperation.
Y vamos a empezar por el punto número 1 de...
Let us begin with point number 1 of comparison and contrast in our analysis. On the left, the law side, right, the law, in capital letters, we have just defined it, allows each human being liberty, or the freedom to act as he wishes and to make the most of his personal knowledge, as he wishes, within the framework of the law.
Luego, como la ley es...
So, because the law is abstract and general,
Siempre que usted no mate, no robe...
within that framework, as long as you do not rob or kill anyone, and you honor contracts, etc., you can do whatever you want to. You can pursue ends of value to you. Seek out means you deem suitable, and develop the life plan you personally choose, within the general framework of the law, which can never be violated. Since the law is abstract, it does not stipulate exactly what must be done. It simply states that you must not kill anyone.
Ajena, que no estafe, que no engañe, que cumpla las...
You must respect life and the property of others. You must not swindle or deceive anyone, and you must fulfill your promises. Do you see that these are abstract rules? They specify nothing about what exactly must be done. Within that framework, the specific materialization is determined by each human being.
mundo, sus objetivos, etc.
Therefore, substantive law creates an environment of liberty, so that each person can develop her own personal powers, worldview, and goals as she thinks fit. Meanwhile, if anything characterizes commands, it is their completely opposite nature. Commands do not allow people the freedom to act, nor to make the most of their personal knowledge. People are not given this freedom precisely because commands, by definition, restrict us, oblige us, coerce us, and force us to exhibit the behavior specified in the command. So, if containers must have a certain height according to the European Union, we are forced to develop and produce containers of that height. We are no longer free. With the law, we are free, because the law is abstract and does not stipulate anything specific. But commands order us to do specific things in particular circumstances, and therefore they coerce us and oblige us to comply. The result is abundantly clear. The law creates an environment of liberty, while commands destroy that environment of freedom. Commands oblige us to manifest certain behaviors. Point number 2 involves the ends each human being may pursue. In the case of the law, each individual may pursue his own ends. Each human being, each man or woman, is the one who creatively seeks out and discovers the ends he or she finds worthwhile and of value. Therefore, each person can freely pursue these ends, within the framework of the law, of course. If the end is to murder people, to kill Jews in a gas chamber, or to kidnap someone, then we are violating the law. Obviously, such ends are out of the question. But within the framework of the law, which, as we know and have just defined it, is very general and abstract, and applies equally to all, each person can pursue the ends she desires. In contrast, on the right, the command side, note down, for point number 2, that the ends pursued are not those of the human being who acts, but those of the authority in power. That is the crucial difference between laws and commands. Commands oblige us, restrict us, and force us to exhibit a specific behavior, and hence they embody a world-view and a pursuit of ends which belong to the one in power. And it makes no difference to me whether the one in power is Stalin, Hitler, or a democratic parliament. The obligation to carry out certain behaviors is imposed on us by force, and therefore, when commands prevail, it is no longer our ends which we may achieve, but the ends forced on us by the people in power. Notice that this is a key difference, and that many times it is concealed from us in a devious way. The coercion behind commands is presented to us as something attractive. We are told, listen, these are beneficial, worthy ends. People used to talk about a holy coercion. I do not care whether the authority attempting to impose itself by force is the church, a democracy, a parliament, Hitler or Stalin. The authority imposes its ends via commands, the ends of the one in power, the chief, not those of acting human beings. And here lies the radical difference between ends pursued in the context of law versus the context of commands. Of course, so that we will swallow the coercion behind a command, we are told perhaps, "This has been decided democratically," or "This command serves the very worthwhile end of heading off global warming," for instance, an issue that is quite fashionable right now.
Estaba muy de moda. O proteger la naturaleza.
Or conserving nature. The attempt is always made to give an attractive veneer to the boot of coercion, so that citizens will accept it. Their liberty will be limited, and they will be obliged to work towards ends that are not their own, but belong to the one in charge.
No son los suyos, sino son los de aquel que manda. Y esto vamos a ver
Immediately, we will see that this has a disastrous effect on social peace.
sobre la paz social.
Point number 3. Substantive laws make social peace possible, since they permit individuals to cooperate with each other, even when they are pursuing different ends. Note the great marvel of the law and its effect on social peace. We will imagine that two people have radically different ends. One is a Basque nationalist. His goal in life is to achieve the independence of the Basque country. The other is working toward a strikingly different end. He is a fascist of the Fuerza Nueva party. His fundamental goal is to keep Spain united. Notice that those ends are complete opposites. Well, we know that a law is a general abstract rule which applies equally to all, does not require any specific behavior in any specific circumstance, and allows each person to pursue the ends she wishes as long as she respects life and property and honors her contracts. Within the framework of the law, two people with such radically different ends as those I have just imagined in our example can perfectly well cooperate with each other. Perhaps the fascist is a baker, and the Basque nationalist is a hungry person. Perhaps the fascist makes wonderful bread. Well, in the context of abstract substantive law, the two can cooperate with no problem. How? The Basque nationalist walks past the shop. "Oh, that bread smells good." He goes in. "How much does a loaf cost?" €1. He hands over €1, receives the bread, and walks off delighted, eating it. The fascist is delighted too, and says to himself, "There goes another satisfied customer." What would have happened if the Basque nationalist had known the baker was a fascist, and vice versa, or if the two had first been required to agree on their ends? Social cooperation would have broken down. And that is precisely the effect commands have. Point number 3 on the right. In a society based on commands, it is essential that a specific end or a specific scale of ends uniformly predominate throughout society, and that it be imposed on all members of society. A command obliges people to do specific things, and thus accomplishes an end, that of the one in power. Therefore, this end is imposed on everyone. So, in the example I have offered, what was within the framework of the law, peaceful cooperation, even between people who are pursuing utterly opposite goals, becomes, in an environment of commands, a continual struggle for political power. People must gain power in order to infuse their own ends into commands and impose them on everyone else. Peace is replaced by violence, conflict, destruction, and war. In fact, all of the wars you can think of, all of the violence and conflict you can imagine, including the worst genocides, the most recent wars, and all other violent conflicts, strikes, for instance, derive from commands, from the desire to forcefully impose on everyone else a particular end expressed in a command. I repeat, where the law prevails, people do not have to first agree on any goal. Substantive law is simply an abstract framework which does not require any particular behavior in any specific circumstance, and therefore it permits every human being to seek out the ends he believes suitable, and to peacefully cooperate with others in abstract relationships, though the participants may pursue contrary goals. Meanwhile, where commands prevail, an end, that of the authority in power, is first established and imposed on everyone via commands. So naturally, all human beings put their full strength into trying to gain power, both in order to defend themselves against the commands of others involving ends they do not share, and in order to make their own ends the ones that are imposed on others.
Tratar de que sean mis fines los que se impongan a los demás.
So, if you want a peaceful society, you must work towards one structured around substantive laws. If you want to see a violent and troubled society, it will be one based on commands.